Please all rise and join us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Continuing in what we normally do at the beginning of each month is the Employee of the Month. This employee is a pretty impressive employee. She's been in the village here for 23 years. She's worked at the front counter. She's put up with all anybody who wants to see what the girls in the front counter put up with, come by when the beach permits are issued. It is unbelievable.
Entertaining, right?
Very entertaining. I've been in retail all my life and I've put up with some miserable things, but these poor girls, they really weed them out, and to me, it was so impressive to watch them. And so I just want to extend a very gratitude thanks to Linda Gusford. She's retiring at the end of September. Her employment was certainly well served. She takes a tremendous pride in her work, and she's an absolute pleasure to work with. Her role has expanded over the years as the village has grown. She's always accepted additional tasks, and she's always walked up front and greeted a customer. Linda has been a great asset to the village. She certainly will be sorely missed, and we wish her many years in retirement. Thank you, Linda. I'll set that aside for you. It's a shame she's not here tonight, because she really has been a big inspiration. Public comment. We have a couple of people signed up tonight. Mr. Greven?
Well, thank you for calling on me to be the first. I could as well have been the last, but that's how it goes. Members of the Board of Trustees, my name is Rainer Greven. I'm a resident of Southampton Village since God knows when, 30 years maybe more. I think I first came here in 1957, actually. And I am currently serving and have for the last 10 years served as chairman of the Southampton Association. I would like tonight to address briefly two issues. And I have a letter prepared, which my wife will distribute at the end of the meeting to the members of the board. First, I would like to talk about the status, maybe not everyone's favorite subject, the village's Board of Ethics. And then the second subject, to no one's surprise, will be briefly to talk about Mr. John Bennett. So, the value of properties in our village is approaching $20 billion, may already be well in excess of that. And the decisions of the building inspector, the ARB, the ZBA, the planning board, all these decisions have considerable financial impact, many of them projects dealing in the tens of millions of dollars for a single property. Chapter 7 of the Village Code specifies any knowledge that they are, in fact, members of the Ethics Board. So this Ethics Committee has been properly appointed, but it's not clear when and how. It's not clear who is the chairman of this committee. It's also not clear how many times, if at all, this Ethics Committee has met in the past 10 years, or whether this committee has even been functioning over the past decade. Accordingly, we, the citizens, hereby request that the Village Board of Trustees take immediate steps to determine whether the village has a properly appointed and functioning Board of Ethics. The association believes it's imperative that the Board of Trustees retain independent counsel to conduct a thorough review of the village's ethics code, which has not been amended in more than 10 years. The residents of Southampton deserve to have a fully functioning ethics board and to have the most up-to-date ethics code. Without such a board, there can be no assurance that all decisions of the building inspector, the ARB, the ZBA, the planning board are being made in conformity with law without being influenced by conflicts of interest. Indeed, to the extent that the village does not currently have a functioning ethics board, the village trustees should impose a moratorium on all building applications in which there is opposition until such a board is appointed and functioning. In his August 31 letter, turning to the eminent attorney, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett makes various claims about the village's ethics code, including that up to 2 members of the ARB and ZBA may meet on an ex parte basis with applicants and their counsel on pending applications. Mr. Bennett reportedly was present during an ex parte meeting with the applicant for 24 and 28 Gin Lane and Chairman Highsmith. The Village Board of Trustees and the ARB should not accept Mr. Bennett's interested interpretation of the village code. Accordingly, we urge village trustees to retain independent counsel to advise the trustees and members of the ARB and ZBA on whether and when such ex parte communications are permitted under the law. Finally, in his August 31 letter, Ms. Bennett suggests that Trustee Hattrick should not have appeared before the ARB to express his views on the intention of the Board of Trustees that adopted the village's historic and landmark preservation law when Trustee Hattrick was mayor. There is nothing in the village ethics code prohibiting a village trustee from providing such views to the ARB. Notably, Mr. Bennett does not cite any provision of the village code or any other law suggesting that a member of a village board cannot testify about the intentions of the village board that approved a law. Thank you, and that completes my comments.
If I could just make, Mr. Greven, if I could just make one comment to that.
Oh, yes.
We are actively reorganizing the Ethics Board, and the individuals...
That is very good news.
And the individuals that you name there have been contacted, and we do have some vacancies, and we're in the process of filling.
I say excellent.
And one more? Okay. And if I might add, this was a topic we discussed very early on
post my appointment, and Mayor Irving encouraged me to attend the town board working sessions on this matter. They have not closed out their code of ethics, so I've been actively involved there. And the fellow trustees here have all received benchmarking from other hamlets that have recently updated their code of ethics. And we couldn't agree more with you on how critical it is and how quickly it needs to be addressed.
Thank you, thank you. And I can tell you that the vast majority of our compatriot citizens will be very happy to hear that news.
Including Mr. Bennett?
I'm sure you'll be hearing from him.
Evelyn Conrad?
Thanks.
Evelyn Conrad, 18 South Roscoe Drive, Southampton. Forgive me, but I want to read this because I'd like it in the record, and I happen to have a few copies here for you, right? To Mayor Mike Irving and the Board of Trustees, good evening. The ARB has just granted another fatally flawed application for a house in the Roscoe Place subdivision, namely for 10 Johnny Lane. The flaw, which nullifies the ARB granting of the application, and if continued through construction would nullify the deed and the certificate of occupancy, deprives a class of approximately 40 or more Roscoe Place subdivision property owners of their New York State granted property right are settled law, starting with Holloway versus Southmead et al., 94 Sickles, 390, Court of Appeals of New York, 1893, if I remember right. I don't think it's in your papers, but I'm sure your attorney has taken first-year law, which Mr. Robinson apparently has not. And this particular law has been strengthened in case law to the very present. Quote, if a general plan for uniform development has been maintained from its inception, the 3 maps of Roscoe Place subdivision filed with the Suffolk County Clerk in 1960, 1966, and 1972, respectively, has been understood, accepted, relied on, and acted upon by all in interest, it is binding and enforceable on all inter se. Under Albert W. Robinson's tenure as lawyer for the ARB, notifications of ARB public hearings about individual properties were fraudulently sent only to some and not all property owners in the Roscoe Place subdivision, and they were also fraudulently sent to owners in adjacent neighborhoods, such as Hill Street, who obviously have not the same interest at heart as we do, violating the omitted property owners' constitutional equal protection rights. Without notice of an upcoming ARB or ZBA, same problem, public hearing, a property owner cannot enforce his statutory, constitutional, and case law protected rights. Yet, in your brief time as the new mayor of our village, Mike, both the chairs of the ZBA and the ARB have ignored my caveats, have been very rude too, and have been supported in their violations of more than 40 property owners' rights, respectively, by Rick DePietris, former village attorney, who said no authority about my quote from New York State case law, and by Albert W. Robinson, lawyer for the ARB. Both ZBA and ARB chairs, Guidera for the ZBA and Highsmith for the ARB, have an unbroken record over the past decade of approving any developer's application, cutting off village residents' objections, and insulting attorneys who tell them what laws they are violating, which I do try to do frequently to no avail, which is why I'm talking to you. The lawless approvals of applications at fraudulently and illegally noticed public hearings are one part of the lawless procedures used to deprive the legal Roscoe Place property owners of their rights. 2 lots, the 90 Leo's Lane and the adjacent empty lot, have been illegally annexed to the Roscoe Place subdivision, even though neither lot is shown on the first section of the July 1960 approved Roscoe Place map filed with the county clerk in Riverhead. And that is the section where those two have been appended. They are the tail end of two ox pasture road properties. All of this, of course, as you know, increases our taxes as well. A court action for the defrauded Roscoe Place property owners would ask for the illegal owners and the village to regurgitate illegal profits well in excess of $25 million. I'm not announcing such a case. I'm asking you to act before we do have to announce it. Mayor Mike and members of the Board of Trustees, it is in everyone's interest for you to immediately halt all ZBA and ARB applications for the Roscoe Place subdivision to give your new village attorney the opportunity to review my copious village documents prior to the filing of any such action. I do stand at your service and yours.
Thank you, Evelyn. Jeff Bragman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and board members. My name is Jeff Bragman. I represent Eric Ruttenberg tonight and Nick Aquavella. And I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to share some concerns that we have about a pending application in front of the zoning board, which I think presents some troublesome appearances. I'm not here to re-argue the case. It's currently it's in a status where it'll be evaluated by the board, but there is time to share these concerns with you. The case involves an application by Jim Zahusky, who's a sitting member on the board, and it is an unusually aggressive application. It requires 23 variances to create 3 lots. The 3 lots have highly unusual, 2 of the 3 lots have highly unusual means of ingress and egress over adjacent properties. In other words, they're landlocked parcels and they make use of rights of way over other property owned by the applicant in order to access the street, which is a highly idiosyncratic way to arrange lots and a dangerous precedent in the village. Our concern, I think, is obvious. The fact is that most of the neighbors, in fact, overwhelmingly, the neighbors oppose this application, even though it proposes to remove an existing but fairly innocuous warehouse use. I brought a map with me today that I want to show you, and I have copies that I can give you.
Mr. Bragman, may I interrupt for a second? What is it that you want the village board to do related to this application?
Ultimately, I'm not here to argue the merits of the case. The only mention I wanted to make of the merits is that this is a highly aggressive application that involves 23 variances for a sitting member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think it doesn't take a lawyer to know that that kind of a relationship is going to strain the extent to which board members can adhere to the strict application of the legal standards in the zoning board, balancing that against their friendship and sense of collegiality with a sitting member of the board. In our opinion, it is an ethical violation for a sitting board member to pursue an application in front of a board on which he sits, and it creates difficulties that are issues for this village board to consider. In the first place, it means that he is asking for a huge huge financial benefit. In the second place, he is straining the limits of the law that is typically applied in the zoning board by asking for an enormous number of variances. Third, in the wake of that application, the attorney representing him is a member of the bar who regularly appears in front of the board. And a favorable ruling by the Zoning Board of Appeals for this sitting member is obviously going to put him in a position where he becomes most favored among equals. And that means that in future applications, it's likely, we would suggest, that the applicant, the sitting member of the board, would have to recuse himself from every application that attorney subsequently appeared on. We think that in a well-run, orderly village that has its eye on ethical rules, there should be a rule prohibiting any sitting member from a board from making an application to the board. I think, as well as being an ethical constraint, it's a common sense constraint. We think that this applicant should choose whether he wants to be a developer in the village of Southampton or whether he wants to sit on a board where he can tell other citizens that they can't have 3 or 4 variances because it's not the minimum relief necessary, which the law requires. We also believe that there should be independent counsel on the board advising them on this application. And the reason is obvious. There is a sense and an appearance that there's inside baseball going on. The attorney for the applicant is well known in front of the board. The applicant is a member of the board. It presents an obvious and difficult situation for sitting members of the board. Now, I am not accusing the board members of any impropriety. I'm sure that they're going to work their best to apply the law fairly, nor am I making any accusations about counsel that advises the board. But appearances matter, and this application is corrosive of the public trust. It doesn't take much imagination to understand why a member of the public could feel justifiably cynical about how village processes work when he sees a sitting member of the board come in front of the village and ask for an application that involves 23 variances, a number that I've been unable to see matched in any prior application in front of that board. And frankly, I've never seen it in 30 years of law practice in front of a variety of zoning boards. We think this is an issue that requires some special attention and care. And one thing you could do immediately would be to appoint independent counsel so that we know that someone who has no involvement in the village or the town, no one who is a friend of any of the parties involved, will give that zoning board straight advice that is uninfluenced by a long-standing relationship with the applicant. The second thing that we think is advisable and an immediate need for the village is to revise your code of ethics, and specifically to outlaw this kind of application. The third thing that you could do is discuss this amongst yourselves in a public hearing and come to a consensus which we would hope would be to say that we do not want sitting members of our boards making applications to the boards on which they sit. We want people to decide if they want to be developers or public servants. And you have the authority to enact a resolution of a sense of this board that you could deliver to the Zoning Board of Appeals to say that you do not approve of this kind of behavior. This is a very dangerous and corrosive application for the village. It is not something that you should tolerate. Even though everyone may be acting within the bounds of what is your current code of ethics, this is wrong, and it conveys a terrible appearance of insider baseball to people who are watching this, and we would like to see it stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. The comment I would make to you is that I would never make a comment about an active application that is pending before our boards at the moment. We are making a conservative effort, as I indicated before, on taking a very close look at our ethics board and the code of ethics. And I have full confidence in all our boards. They work hard. They're
time to, what's the time, this is pending before this board? Suppose they give a decision before we come up with a new set of rules.
You're going to have to do the best you can. I mean, you can't stop that application. I'm not asking you to interfere with the application. I do think that if you're troubled by the ethics of it, you can, on the record, communicate that to them in a formal way. This is not improper influence of the zoning board. You, as the legislature, which you are allowed to give an administrative board your sense of what is the type of review that you want to see applications to have. So you could formally pass a resolution and say, we don't approve of this. We're going to work on this. We think it's a problem. You could do that. Whether you can stop them, I'm not asking you to stop them. I'm really trying to say to you, this is a problem and it should not be happening. I don't think sitting board members should be asking for dramatic relief from the boards on which they sit. It's just too much pressure to put existing board members under.
Evelyn? Yep.
I appreciate questions of ethics, but what I brought to your attention are illegal acts that are current and that you have the right, in fact, the responsibility to stop. These are improperly noticed applications at the ZBA and at the ARB. I don't share your full respect of the way those committees, those boards have been operating. I've watched them. I have not seen you there. I don't have quite the same respect. There's a lot of hanky-panky. But what I brought up to you is illegal.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I'll be very quick. I just want to say that I only presented this to you because it shows neighbors in opposition are outlined in blue. It just shows that most of the neighborhood is opposed to the application.
Next in public comment, Jane Reagan.
Rini.
Rainey.
Good evening. My name is Irene Regan. I have been a summer resident here since the late 60s. One of the most enjoyable activities I've experienced over these many years is Cooper Beach. And that's the issue I'm going to raise this evening.
Can I just interrupt you, Rini, for a second? A summer visitor, but you own property.
Yes.
In the town of Southampton in Shinnecock Hills.
Yes, I'm actually a 3-season resident. I'd like to be a 4-season, but I have to take that up with my husband. So what I'd like to raise is the issue of Cooper Beach and the chaos that's been taking place there weekends of July and August, specifically on Saturdays, where you have rampant sale of daily stickers to the detriment of the people who not only pay taxes, but spend upwards of $700 or $800 on stickers, season passes. You get to the beach, you're on an extremely long line just having access to the parking lot. If you do have access to the parking lot, then you're hunting around forever looking for a spot. If you're lucky enough to get a spot, you get to the beach, try to set your little camp up. There's no room. It's wall-to-wall people. Go to the concession. Go to the ladies' room. Again, you can wait online to use the bathroom for 25, 30 minutes on a busy Saturday. The lifeguards have designated a specific area where people are encouraged to bathe. There is no way, with the amount of people that go to that beach, that area can be safely covered. They're spilling to the west, they're spilling to the east, and it's unrealistic to expect the lifeguards to be able to respond to people who are taking dips all over the place. The only suggestions I would make is that you take another look. I do not know if this is the board that makes these decisions about stickers and permits, but you would take a look and reevaluate what you've been doing in the past. I'd even suggest that you eliminate selling weekend stickers, or failing in that, raise the price enough that maybe you would discourage some of this incredible chaos every weekend. It's become almost a safety issue, I would say. Specifically on Meadow Lane, you have traffic coming from the east and the west. Those girls in the booth do the best they can, but they're not traffic officers. They can't be checking ID and selling stickers and controlling the traffic flow in and out of the lot. So I'm thinking maybe if you can't eliminate selling stickers, maybe you'd adjust the price. Maybe you would have a differential for price. But that did not happen on the 4th of July. You had people parked all the way up Meadow Lane who would purchase stickers. They all ended up paying a lot more. I think they were all ticketed. But I just find that there has to be some look at what's been going on. Cooper Beach is one of our greatest treasures. And when you start to deteriorate that particular asset, you're losing what it's all about, I think. So hopefully, when you make your decisions, you'll take all of this into account. Another thing that's happening, too, which I find is odd. Now there's free shuttles showing up with people spilling out. They pull up to the beach and 6 or 7 people get out. They're sponsored probably by the Chamber of Commerce, I would guess. It just is really out of control and bears no resemblance to the beach that Eileen and I have enjoyed all these many years. Also the umbrella sales. I guess that's okay.
Well, we only have a certain amount.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we sell out, we sell out.
Yeah. But really, I would say,
Did you like the concession?
Excuse me?
Did you think the concession was good this year? I thought they were great.
Well, I think the last time I purchased anything at the concession was maybe in the mid-'70s, like maybe an ice cream. However, I do use the bathroom. And the bathroom, I know you're trying. I know that. But it's unrealistic to think that some matron or somebody from the concession can come in and monitor the amount of toilet tissue. People are washing their bathing suits out in the sink. They're changing. It's just crazy. Or there's a toilet that overflows. Is there a plumber on call? Of course not.
Well, actually, yes, there is.
Eileen, right. Yeah. But it's just so out of control. And I think, if I understand correctly, I believe East Hampton does not sell weekend stickers.
No.
And I think the price,
East Hampton Village, not to interrupt, but they sell day passes Monday to Friday.
That's Jeff. Jeff, what do they sell over there? You know.
On Saturday and Sunday.
I live in the town.
Yeah, town.
You're correct about the village.
Yeah, East Hampton Village, and they're limited to their amount of beaches as well in East Hampton Village. So,
yeah.
But they just flat out don't sell
and they
day
limit
passes Saturday, Sunday.
Even people who are residents, I think it's first come, first serve, and they cap that. To think that we can just provide this wonderful beach to most of Suffolk County is unrealistic, and I really would hope that you would take another look and see what can be done. Okay? Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Has anybody here been at the beach, by the way? You have? Okay. Thanks. Great.
Yes, certainly. Being a beach goer.
A beach triangle buyer. I'm Bruce Bachman. I live in Halsey Neck Lane and around the corner from this beach. And if you drive from the east to the west, in front of the entrance to the parking lot, you'll know that the road actually now goes up onto the grass. There is no grass there, and the reason is that every car that goes through there has to leave the road to get by from probably 10 o'clock on Saturday morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. There are people playing dodgems. People aren't going around the way they could, but it's a real problem. And it's become a real problem not just for the beachgoers, but I think for everybody that goes along Meadow Lane from east to west on the weekends. And I don't know whether it's dangerous yet, but we're going to have some sort of a little accident. There's also a lot of the kids waiting for the bus right along there. So you're driving up onto the grass towards the bench that everybody's sitting at, and then swinging back down when another car coming from the other direction trying to get around the same spot. And it's just not, it's something we ought to be able to control, let's put it that way. If we don't, we are spoiling one of our great resources, and that would be a shame.
Thank you. Well, I think that the biggest problem with Cooper's is that it's one beautiful beach, and everybody wants to share it, and we're going to have to reach a point where maybe we don't share it as much. Make the same zone in the same area, and that can be changed going forward. And maybe, Wayne, you could better present what we're trying to do.
I believe Julie has some maps to distribute to the board members to assist, and there may be some if any members of the public are interested. Mayor has indicated this is a cleanup of what was the annexation of certain property off of East Street, south of the railroad, which is now called Bishop's Pond. The village zoning line split the property between the village and the town. Both the town and the village zoning board and planning boards reviewed applications and granted the approval to change what was an industrial sand pit to the current residential development. And because the property was split between the village and the town, issues of taxation, school districts, et cetera, were raised, and an application was made to the village to annex that portion of the property in the town to be included entirely in the village, so the entire project would be within the village. And that annexation took place by local law number 6 of 2013, which you have a copy of that local law that was attached. And this local law is to propose, so when that annexation took place, that is now part of the village. However, there was never an action on the part of the board to zone that piece of property that was once formerly in the town. This proposed local law would classify the property to be residential R20, which is the zoning that is in place on the portion that was within the village. And it's basically extending that over the entire property. The property will continue to maintain its non-conforming status, and all the approvals that were granted by the village and the town remain valid and in place. And so this would just actually put that portion of the property on the zoning map. I think that the hearing would have to be kept open unless we have a letter from the Suffolk County Planning Commission on this. I don't know if we've received that yet, but to the extent it has to be referred, obviously, to them. And once we receive a report, the board could thereafter take an action, subject to comment and review.
With that explained, is there anybody who would like to make a comment? No? And then it is actually, the action, I'll tell you, is a fairly simple action, just to conform that area under the same zoning code. And I will make a motion to continue the public hearing and close it at this point,
Adjourn the hearing.
adjourn it for,
Purposes of receiving advisory reports and any further comments.
there we go.
Do we
Do I have
table
a
it
second?
for?
Second.
All in favor?
I think we need to do a roll call.
A roll
on
call?
Vote this, from what Steve instructed me to do, so with the roll call vote, Trustee Yastrzemski?
Aye.
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 Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye.
Trustee McGann?
Aye.
Trustee Hattrick?
My only suggestion is you adjourn this, not to your next date, but your meeting,
To table the
the meeting, the
October?
first meeting in October.
Yeah, that would be
Planning
October.
Commission normally meets the first Wednesday of the month, so if they haven't acted, it's not likely they'll act until October, the first
county.
meeting in October.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a motion to table this till October 12th, the first Board of Trustees meeting in October. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So that will be tabled to the October 12th Board of Trustees meeting here in Village Hall, 6 p.m.
Perfect.
So communication to the board.
We have no communications to the board.
Okay, so we can go right to
Read the
resolutions?
Suggested resolutions.
All right,
Are you ready?
and here we go.
Are you ready?
All right. So resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public session of August 22, 2017, and the special meeting of August 31, 2017, be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, resolved that the claims for the warrants dated September 14, 2017 totaling $597,000 and $1,328.79 warrant number 7 of trust fund, and $43,537 warrant number 4 capital reserve fund, and the village payrolls for the period from August 18, 2017 to September 14, 2017 be audited and approved. And now the detail.
No, we make the motion and have a second. then
Oh, okay,
discuss
so
it.
a motion for those,
I'll make the motion.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, and
And now we
discussion will
can-
be
Right.
me, okay. Air and Gas Technologies, Fire Department, $2,418 was a contractual. It's probably the one I don't have, and I'm starting out with. To start.
You just read on the left, did you say the number?
Okay. Gary Aldrich, 1,000 is medical reimbursement, Medicare reimbursement. Alpine Software Corp., $2,040. That's the fingerprint kiosk reader for the fire department. Alpine Software Corp., $12,186.15 is a service contract for Red Alert computer program for the fire department. Bill Bates is a Medicare reimbursement. Braun Marketing is the Summer Village newsletter, $1,815. Buzz Chew Chevrolet Olds for $1,058.78. Miscellaneous safety inspections for our vehicles. CSEA employee benefit, $28,468.44 is for the September 2017 premium. Past productions, $2,030 for miscellaneous recording of meetings. CC Electronics and Installations, $2,466.70. It's a warning light and upgrade for the fire department, one of the units, and a boat trailer. CDW Government Inc., $3,168 is Police Department video endpoint 23-inch HD system upgrade. Clanahan Candace, $1,040 is for transcription of meetings. Cleary Consulting, $3,075 is for planning board meeting prep for Southampton Village Latch. John and Joyce Cole, each $1,044.90, Medicare reimbursement. Crowd Control Store, $3,771.85 is for police barricades. East Coast Mines and Materials Corp., $1,360. Miscellaneous brush pickup, Highway Department. EMT Governmental Accounting Services, $1,225. That's Eileen Tui's accounting services. Emmanuel Escobar, $1,000, also a Medicare reimbursement. Firematic Supply Company, $1,575.64 for hoses. First Presbyterian Church, $3,000 for parking lease of September 2017. Prudence Fowler, $1,044.90 is Medicare reimbursement. Frosty Towel Sales and Marketing, $2,055.50. Cooling towels for the fire department. Gem Fence, $2,410. 6-foot fence put back in at Pond Lane. General Cold Publishers Corp., $2,725.96. That's for zoning book. Herrick Hardware, $1,396.90. Miscellaneous supplies throughout the village. Hildreth's for $5,274, and Hildreth's $2,637 for benches. Island Biogreens, $1,580. It's for fertilizer for the Pro Start, it's called, in the Parks Department. Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., $1,350. That is the traffic signal bill for August 2017. Johnstone Supply, the next page, $3,735.05 is the mini split heat and AC units to install in the basement of the Vets Hall. Lars and Margaret King, Medicare reimbursement, $1,044.90 each. Skip page. Messiano Consulting, $1,120. Garbage pickup throughout the village, various departments. Jumping to page 20, New York State Employee Health Insurance pending, $308,927.25 is the October 2017 premium.
The Office of State Comptroller, $7,818 are the fines and fees collected from the Justice Court, for the Justice Court. PSEG, I was told to just go past, but those are our utility bills. 4,000. Do you want me to read the amounts?
If you could, just...
Okay.
yeah.
$4,929.12, $4,587.17, $5,355.48, $5,339.04, all PSEG utility bills for various departments. And we're going to skip a page 24. Riverhead Brake Service, LLC, $4,482.79. That's complete brakes for a vacuum truck. Robinson and Robinson Esquire, $6,093. Attorney fees. Ronco, $3,192.48. Cleaning supplies, building maintenance. Sadie, Levine, and Chaco CPAs, $4,250. Audit of the Justice Court. Skidmore's, Sports and Styles, $1,801.96. Those are for Little League bases and anchors to hold the bases in place. Southampton Masonry, $1,875.96. That's miscellaneous supplies, Highway Department. Previous page. Southampton Tire, $1,480. Central Garage, miscellaneous tires. Sprague Operating LLC, $4,926.93. And that is a fuel bill, Highway Department. Squires, Pearson and Sons, $1,200, and that is a pump out of the cesspool of the Vets Hall. Suffolk Cement Products, $1,072 for various gravel, pea grit, Highway Department. Page 28. Town of Brookhaven, $1,746.54. Disposal of brush, Highway Department. Tyco Integrated Security, $1,819.50. Fire Department Camera Systems and Security. Vaso Systems, $8,598.51. Parks for the gutter broom sweeper. Vehicle Tracking Solutions, $1,127.53. That's a GPS monitor for the DPW vehicles. WB Mason Company, $1,717. That's a new desk for Yolanda over in the police department. Roy Wines, $1,044.90, and that's Medicare reimbursement. Whitmer Associates, $1,942. That is assorted hand tools. That's also fire department. Matthew Worrell is $1,000 Medicare reimbursement, or no, medical reimbursement, it says. So, that's general fund. Trust fund, there's nothing over exceeding 1,000. Do you want me to?
No, I said no, keep going, because there are more that you've got.
Oh, yeah, the capital reserve, sure. So we have basically all four. Island Tech Services, $5,195. That is a Panasonic Toughbook docking station for the fire department. Island Tech Services, $3,037. That's a bulletin board computer system and components for the Windmill Lane Fire Department. Mayday Communications, $22,950, is a new digital recorder for the Radio Room Police Department. Mayday Communications, $12,355 for the software upgrade for the dispatch console at the fire department.
Great time because he really has done some hard work. Okay, not to interrupt you.
No,
Go ahead.
and it's been a while since I've done a meeting, so please pardon my being a little rusty.
You're doing great.
Doing just fine. You're doing great.
So especially with the roll call votes. Anyway, should we move on to number 3?
Yes.
Okay, so resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the following payment from the Capital Reserve Fund pending permissive referendum. So the Mayday Communications that I just read to you for $12,355, and the Island Tech Services, $8,232, and that is the Fire Equipment Reserve Fund. And Mayday Communications, the $22,950. Also, that's in the Facilities Reserve, I believe that's Police Department. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to eliminate overages through September 14, 2017 for the fiscal year ending May 31, 2017. And that is in the books. Do you want me to read that? Okay.
Yep.
So the police equipment account, the A3120.2, taking out $19,500. Fire equipment, A3410.2, $30,350. Unallocated insurance in, $49,850. Street maintenance contractual, account number A5110.44, out, $3,250. Trustee special projects, A1010.47, in, $3,250. So for a total of coming out, $53,100, and coming in, $53,100. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
So resolved that the Board of Trustee hereby approves the mayor's appointment of Jane Clare as a member of the Planning Board. And I believe her resume is in your book.
Resume's attached. Kimberly and myself met with her. She's a very impressive person. We've had a vacancy on the planning board for a number of years, but not almost a year, I guess. When Warren Hamer resigned from the board, so Jane Clare stepped up, and she's willing to fulfill his role and position until his term expires, which I don't have the date that I did, but I think it's 2020. I think it's 5 years that most of them do.
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest if you do adopt this resolution, that term should be put into the resolution
Okay.
to fulfill the term of, non-expired term of Mr. Hamer to end on a certain date, just for clarification purposes.
Okay. But we need to find that date.
Did we get that?
I think you can adopt it and let the clerk fill it
Clerk fill
Oh,
it
we
in.
can? Okay.
with the understanding that
With
it's
the
to fulfill
understanding.
that
Right.
position.
Right, with the, yeah, I didn't have the dates here. Okay, so can I?
Although Julie would have found it.
Give me 3 minutes. So can I have a motion for,
I'll make that motion.
and a second? Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? No. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the following as new members of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance, Inc. Brian Carey, Andrew Bendo, Brooke Llewellyn, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Llewellyn. Carmen Friedman, and Stacy Cordy. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
So discussion items. Number one, the proposed local law related to overnight parking of commercial vehicles in public parking lots.
And this is sort of an important thing to take the long-term parking there. You can take a look at a number of them, and you'll see trash and leaves and stuff around them. They literally have not moved for quite a while. So it's become a pretty big issue, and I'll turn it over to Wayne because he's been working on coming up with terms of parking.
Well, the proposed local law that you have in your package is to amend the section in the code that already currently prohibits in your public parking lots, and you have a list on schedule, I believe, Appendix M of the public parking lots, and that's something you need to review and make sure you've covered all your public parking lots. But currently, the law states that no commercial vehicle or vehicle bearing commercial registration plates shall be parked between the hours of 12 midnight and 7 a.m. So the question in enforcement of that current law, it's clear that the vehicles bearing commercial registration plates is very clear. However, what a commercial vehicle is not clearly defined in the code. And other vehicles that don't necessarily might be of concern whether or not they are commercial or otherwise. So the proposed local law that you have asked me to draft identifies the types of vehicles that may be of concern of that overnight or long-term parking in your village parking lots, which is consistent with your current code, but it's clarifying it so that there's no question of what type of vehicles you mean when you identify commercial vehicles. So a follow-up to this local law might be a review to make sure you've covered all your, your list of public parking lots, and the mayor and Steve have started an inventory of that so that we can revisit that at another point. But currently, this would apply to all the public parking lots that you have already identified in the code. So if this is something you want to consider, it's in a form of a local law, you would have to schedule a public hearing. If you want to do further investigation or amend or change it, you still would be able to do that through the public hearing process and hear any comments on this, or you can do further investigation and revise it if you so choose.
I mean, do we have any comments or discussion from the board members, or,
I think it's a great idea.
okay?
What would be the penalty of this occurring?
The current penalties under the parking regulations, including, if appropriate, the police department could tow vehicles if necessary, but certainly it would be parking violations.
I think it goes right in line with
And
all
could
the
they-
you've been doing of signage and everything else, too, so it's,
Well, yeah, I mean,
you know,
it's an ongoing issue because originally the vehicles were parking up in back of the movie theater. That was private property, so he was able to remove them. Now they...
Drive was an issue.
The Mariner Drive was an issue, and we had to put no parking there. Now, in back of the village here is becoming an issue, and certainly I think that the train station has become another issue. And Chief, you might have a comment on that?
I'm obviously in favor of it. It helps us solve some of our problems. We also have to do some other parking stuff
Yeah.
over the course of the winter, too.
Yeah, we got a lot ahead of us on parking.
Chief, have you got a copy of this?
And this would apply to the lots that we also rent from,
Currently, the section applies, if you read the section of the code, it says, in Section A, it applies to the parking lots that we own and lease, so long as you've identified them in the statute. So we will go and review each property that you have a parking lot that you either own or lease, and determine whether or not to add those to the list in the code as well. But this is a start related to the clarification of a commercial vehicle.
owned and leased is good.
Yeah.
So we should probably would you suggest we make a motion to have a public hearing?
Schedule a public hearing
Yep.
on the proposed local law and authorize a notice of public hearing to be published.
Did you want to do that in also the first meeting in October, or to table it?
The first meeting in October, I think, is that a Tuesday?
No, the first one in October is October 12th, which,
Was a Thursday.
that's the first Thursday in, the first meeting in October.
And that should
The
give us
next
some...
meeting is, in September, is the Tuesday, the 26th of September. Steve is not back yet.
Right.
You don't have time for public notice either for that. So
What's that?
public notice has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need 10 days, so at least publication. So it would be tight to get it into your next meeting.
maybe
I think
the-
the 12th would be the earliest that you can notice it.
And then
Maybe the 24th of October, the second meeting?
I would...
No, I
Saying
think we
the
could try
12th
that. We can do the 12th.
Number two is state and local tax deduction resolution. Mr. Mayor, did you want me to read
yeah, if we
Peter
could, but-
Bain's email?
Right,
It might-
but it's pretty lengthy, yeah.
I could read fast if you want.
but I think they sent a resolution, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, that probably would want to read. But let me explain what that is so people understand it. That's really, and I'm sure you've been seeing it on the news, I've been talking about the salt tax, which is the elimination of state and local tax deductions. And I find that those deductions for normal people, working class people, is huge. We all deduct our state and local taxes, and it's almost we've done it by right, and we should continue to do it. And I wanted to make sure that they understood in Albany, and it's sent to our congressman, that we fully support it. So with that, if you...
Okay.
Support
We
keeping the
fully-
tax
we-
as opposed to a repeal.
Right.
Yes.
Keeping the tax
That's
deduction.
keeping the tax deduction.
Deduction.
Michael, who's proposing to do away with the deductibility of the
Current federal administration.
Federal administration.
President Trump? Part of his
Part
financial
of
plan?
the tax, yes.
It's part of the tax.
There's a debate taking place in Washington on this currently.
Yeah.
So this would be a resolution of support to keep the law in place.
Because without it, part of this letter says basically you have double
Say
taxation.
no more,
You know, because you'd be paying tax, you'd be paying federal taxes on the income taxes you pay to state and local.
And this is coming from the NICOM, the New York.
NICOM, right?
Yeah.
Commission.
So how do we go about this?
So do you
we
want me
just
to read
go-
the sample resolution and
Right.
as a
Well, I think, yeah,
resolution?
we can adopt the
Yeah,
sample.
it recommends, NICOM recommends that we adopt a resolution basically saying we're on board with the state legislature's
So this is
position
what they
on keeping us.
recommend
Yes.
the resolution, so I'm going to read this resolution, and we will take a vote. Okay. So whereas Congress is giving serious consideration to eliminating the federal income tax deduction for state and local taxes, whereas this deduction, which has been in place for more than 100 years, is heavily utilized by residents of our community and our state, whereas New York residents already pay more into the federal treasury than the federal government returns to New York, whereas the state and local tax deduction is a fundamental principle of federalism, and without it, our residents would be faced with double taxation, as they would be forced to pay federal income taxes on the taxes they pay to state and local governments. Whereas this federal cost shift onto local governments would place extreme pressure on municipal budgets, including diminished revenue for essential local government investments, including public safety and public infrastructure, and whereas increased federal taxation and reduced municipal services will harm our local housing market, decrease home values, and erode our local tax base. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Southampton expresses its strong opposition to any tax reform proposal that would eliminate the state and local tax, SALT, deduction, and urges Representative, would that be Congressman Zeldin?
Congress.
Would be,
Yes.
And our senators.
Congressman
and our
Zeldin?
senators.
To join us in publicly opposing any such proposal. So can I have a motion to
I'll make that motion.
Second?
second? Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then what we'll do is we'll send a copy of that resolution to NICOM.
NICOM and our representatives.
Yes, yep.
Chuck and Gillibrand. Or senators. Schumer and Gillibrand.
And number 3, Andrew Watson, the wedding traffic control. He lives on Hill Street, and I think actually Julie knows quite a bit about this, what he's requesting for police coverage. Julie?
So it's a wedding that's going to take place this Saturday, so the time frame is really tight on this, unfortunately. But the wedding will take place this weekend at Sacred Hearts, Basilica of Sacred Hearts, with the reception at Whitefields. What he is hoping is that he's asking for traffic support for the guests to cross the street from Whitefields to Sacred Hearts for a time period. He's asking for opening there from 1:40 to 2:40, obviously not across the road, but to have police presence to help the guests cross back and forth. And then after the wedding, at some point in that time period of 3:30 to 4:30, for them to go back to Whitefields for the reception. And we've let him know that it would be one police officer there for 3 hours, that he would pay that cost.
Yes, he was willing to
Absolutely,
take the
yes,
cost.
he has no problem.
And then we would, charge them $95 times 3 hours.
Exactly.
Chief, do
Any
you
problem
have
with that,
any
Chief, or you
comment
wanna
on
comment?
that, or you?
He has provided insurance.
He has provided certificate of insurance and indemnity.
You want me to do it with the normal staffing we have working? It would just be the time that the police officer's there. If I have to bring someone in overtime, it'd be 4 hours. So they get
Right,
minimum,
I think he's willing to pay.
so they get
It seems to be
4 hours
very-
minimum recall for a guy to come in off duty.
Yeah, to do a
We
minimum.
thought it was 3, but we could certainly tell him
Well,
it's 4.
contracts like to be 4 minimum. That's what he said. The bill would be for 4 hours,
Okay.
even though
One of the things that Southampton is always sort of, I felt that we needed to do more of is to give back to our community and give back to the residents of Southampton in providing them some recreational activities. So we're looking at expanding with the approval of the town and the CPF, expanding into the CPF property to expand the Agawam Park and divide it up into 2 additional areas with some really exciting stuff for children, and it's all developmental things. Then we looked at the Moses Lane property and sort of reached out to the community in the area to see what they want, and we're going to try to keep that as much open space and natural vegetation as we can. We're going to have a tentative walkway through there, so you can walk and jog through the area. There's tentatively set 3 tennis courts and 2 bocce courts. Those we may not do right away, but a lot of that stuff is going to be done with in-house, so we can do it as we go. And as Nancy indicated, the whole concept is to develop a cost of both of those facilities and then sit down with Steve and figure out how we're going to pay for it. But both projects are pretty exciting, and both projects will give a lot back to the community. I'm really convinced.
And actually, on the Moses Lane property, where the tennis courts, the plans are here, so if anybody feels they would like to come in and look at them, they can come in and look at it. The tennis courts are pushed to the rear of the property, and if anyone knows anything about that property, it fronts the railroad tracks, so it'll be bermed up. But a lot of the foliage along the road will remain. So for most people, they won't even notice that there's much going on there.
No, they won't.
There'll be an entrance, there will be some parking provided, and it looks like a great project. And the children's playground is so over the top, it's unbelievable. I just think it's a great thing for our community.
And will they be full tennis courts, or I know like
Full
the one
tennis
that
courts.
was
Well, I
on
think
the
2
North Captain's Neck had the, what were they, like paddle
That was
courts or-
paddleboard
right.
ball, but that was rickety, and
Yeah.
we've had requests to put a tennis court there, but the neighbors didn't want it.
Right.
Here, I think we're going to have 2 full-size tennis courts and 1 pickleball, which I think is a little bit of a
Oh, I
smaller
heard
court.
about that, yeah.
It's very popular now. And then bocce. And then, as I said, a really nice walking path that, that people can go out and walk or jog or whatever they want to do over there.
And when we get the cost of both these facilities, we're going to present it to the public and get your input and see if you agree. But I really got to say Nancy's done an incredible job on both of them, and I think it would be really good for Southampton. We've had tennis courts before and stuff, and they've been widely accepted, but we just don't give, I don't think, enough to our community, and this is a way to give back some.
Yeah. Happy places. That's the way I look at it. We need more happy places, and we'll have them there. So.
And the tennis court that's still over on Ann's. And
Yeah,
that will-
and that's an interesting thing, because that is really a village tennis court over in Roscoe Drive that most people don't realize is open to everyone in the village
Yes.
And town.
and town. Is that open to everyone in the town,
think it's
too?
village
No, I think it's just village.
Village owners?
I believe.
This will be open to town residents
was a
as
hidden
well.
agenda
No.
until now.
Good.
Yeah,
Get the
town,
word out.
and, let's face it, our playground is open to everyone. We get people coming from all over for that playground. And now with this, I mean, it's just terrific, the equipment that we want to put there, So I'm excited about it, and I hope we can do it. So.
At our last meeting, we discussed the tennis court that's just a hop, skip, and a jump north of the Moses property, and it was validated in the Summers development, I think it is.
Yep, there is one
And
there.
there is one
And
there.
thank you for finding that out.
And this is a big secret for those of you who like to play tennis. It's virtually never used, so, because nobody knows about it.
Until now.
Until now. Right.
Trustee Hattrick.
Could you pass each person
Sure.
a copy of this? And Julie, could you give Mr. Weiner of the press a copy of this? This is a picture that Gary Gillespie took, I think, on Monday morning at my request. I wished I'd had the wisdom to ask him to take it this morning. It's a picture. There again this morning. What you can't see on the other side of the white truck, there was something else that was quite heavy, but more importantly, there's one of those big steel green garbage platforms that's up against the house. And God knows what that thing weighs, but it's huge. It's got to be at least 25 feet long and probably longer than that and bigger than that, and when it's full. But it takes another truck, had to come in with it on the chassis of the carting truck. It doesn't propel itself. And this idea of, so anyhow, what I would like before we consider giving him any break, because apparently this house has no side yards. And for a house, I don't know how big the parcel is. Somebody told me 2 acres, which I questioned, but I know it's relatively narrow, but he's created his own problem. He's built walkways on both sides of the house, go right up against the foliage that may either be on his property or on the property line between him and his 2 neighbors. But I would really love to have our building inspector accompany us. I want to see where these dry wells are and what does a plate glass window weigh. And it's a self-created hardship. I don't like the idea of a crane out in the roads for 5 hours, but also passing over the neighboring property, which may involve legal issues that I wish our attorney would look at. Do we run any risk that if we let them do this and suddenly the crane collapses and falls in partially the neighbor's yard? But I do not have any sympathy for this person who built this. And as I say, he made a shambles and with the outstanding help of his attorney, who's well known to you all. And so I would like the 5 of us to be able to go down there with Jonathan and have him explain where the dry wells are, because I don't think they're there. I think that's horse crap or donkey dust, excuse me. I think all the things that they're taking into this house, he's built a house, and God knows if anything ever goes wrong with his swimming pool, I don't know how he's going to fix it. My own thought was maybe you can get one of those things that they used on D-Day in Normandy to land a vehicle on the beach and bring it in from that side. But he's got a self-created hardship, and I'm very much opposed to it, and I would like us to go down and see just how deserving he is. So that's my...
What does he need the crane for?
The crane is to pick up this plate glass window, hoist it over, his own house, of course.
It's in the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he wants the plate glass on the ocean side?
Here.
No, it's not working.
There's one there, but it got damaged.
Damn it all. I've got it right in front of me somewhere here. The letter. Here it is. Here's what the crane... Charlie, I wish you could see this, but he's parking the crane there, and it's going across this person's property, over his roof, and dropping something down there. And I don't know who's going to be, if there's going to be 3 strong-armed people that are going to catch the damn thing on the other side, and how they get it to the front of the house to install it and so on. But I have no sympathy, but maybe I should. I want somebody to prove to me that we owe him this permission.
Also, has he gotten permission from the person that he has the crane going across?
We have no idea, and I would think that legally we would have some risk that if something were to happen...
Well, we need to know that he has permission from this
this person should,
Wayne, for you to think about whether or not we need some kind of... Pardon?
he doesn't have permission right now.
No.
That's what they're going to ask for.
But frankly, I think that I'm very indisposed to grant him anything if it's, but I'd like to see it up close and personal. And this orange crane that's in here, that is plenty big enough to raise this, but he's created his own problem. He built a house damn near to the edge of the property, and then he built walkways on both sides, and he's probably afraid that if he takes them up over his walkways, that somehow it's going to break his walkways, which that would be heartbreaking. And but I don't think the dry wells, I think that's a load of donkey dust, because if you saw the other trucks that were in this property this morning, and as I told you, there's this big garbage receptacle there that when they fill it, God knows what that weighs, but the truck that can pick it up and then take it out of there has got to drive over, he makes it sound like his front yard, his front yard is all filled with dry wells, and I think that's just fabrication on his part, but I would like our building inspector to fill us in.
We can do that.
I wish you would. Please don't. I beg you not to give him permission to do this until we've been down there.
Okay.
We don't owe him squat.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh, and Mr. Wayner, I would like to come and see you someday this week about something else, okay? I'll call you. Monday a good day?
Yeah, Monday's fine.
I don't know. I'll call you.
So that's, Mr. Mayor, did you have anything else you wanted to?
Absolutely. I got a couple of things here. One of them I'm really impressed by. About a month ago, I was watching and went on their training exercise to do a report of a swimmer in distress in the ocean. The first responding unit on the road was out within a minute, and the first unit on the scene was there, in less than 10 minutes. There was a police officer and, again, Alfie Callahan that were present. They located the swimmer. Now, I got to also go on and say about the two individuals that are involved. Alfie Callahan is just a terrific guy, and he grew up about the same age as my son, and his dad and his uncle used to call me up in the middle of the summer and go, "Hey, listen, we got to talk about our sons and Alfie and figure out how we're going to straighten them out." Well, there is, both those kids were just outside the box, and both of them have turned into terrific kids. And then the police officer, James Moore, surfer dude. He loves surfing, loves the ocean. And these two individuals responded. During the drill, there was a great discussion on running out a lead line to recover a distressed swimmer, and the difficulty of the line in the sand and the difficulty of the line in the water, especially in our heavy wave actions that we have. But both these individuals just dove in, grabbed the line, swam out to him. One swimmer was approximately 600 feet offshore, west of Cooper's Beach Pavilion. They evaluated the condition, and I don't know if any of you have ever approached somebody in distress in the water, but it is a very scary situation because they're usually panicking and you aren't sure where they're going to grab you or if they're going to just try to push you under, and so your approach is really critical. And these two individuals approached a swimmer. It was decided that we needed to put rescuers in the water prior to the arrival, proper protection and equipment. Southampton Village Police Department put one officer, again, Officer Moore, in the water with one Good Samaritan. I don't know who the Samaritan was, but he had a key piece of equipment, a boogie board. And the two rescuers made their way through severe chop and currents to the distressed swimmer. And thanks to their quick thinking, their knowledge from recent training, and members of the Water Rescue Squad were able to make a tether line as the Water Rescue Unit was not on scene yet with proper equipment. Tether line is key, and one of the things we discovered is a lot of your twist lines, which are common in the fire department, have a tendency to pick up sand as they roll out, and they can become heavy and cumbersome. So it's something that we need to take a look at. They entered the water with a tethered line and made their way out to the rescuers to assist in the removal of the victim from water. The rescue took place approximately 600 feet from shore. That's a long ways, especially in rough conditions. Conditions in the water included a severe rip current, cold water conditions, and using the tether line, I was able to pull in the distressed swimmer on the boogie board to waiting EMS personnel. Again, something that this village is so good at is our volunteers. Our volunteers in the fire department, our volunteers in the ambulance department, all coordinating with the police department in saving people, and I'm really impressed by it. I then returned to the water with a Good Samaritan to assist Officer Moore from the water to waiting EMS personnel. Because of quick actions and fast response by all agencies involved, all four persons who entered the water were evaluated by the EMS and found to have no injuries. I commend both the Southampton Village Police Department's Officer James Moore, Alfie Callahan, and the entire Southampton Fire Department's Water Rescue Squad on great training, a positive working relationship between all agencies. Just a very, very impressive incident when just barely a month prior, we sat there on the beach and discussed on how we're going to do this and what we're going to do in the heavy surf and what kind of equipment is needed and what things need to be changed. We get an incident and they all work together and no lives were lost. Very, very impressive. I got to tell you, two great people. We got some great stuff continuing. We got the Southampton Cultural Center, Friday night, 7 o'clock, Queen Esther Morrow in concert. Is that big stuff?
Jazz, yeah. Yeah, she's legendary, so it should be a wonderful concert for her.
Great. Something that you don't want to miss. And then Southampton Arts Center, Friday and Saturday, have the Mountain Film on Tour Southampton Film Festival. A full schedule of documentary shorts, including the best of their 2017 festival in Telluride. And I think they have, first, isn't there an environmental film, and then there's
Friday evening, I believe it's on the more environmental. Saturday afternoons for family films for the kids as well. And then Saturday evening, there's a filmmakers reception, followed by the shorts that were the award-winning at the Telluride Festival, and I believe it was in August.
Yeah.
So it's right off the heels of that.
And the Telluride Festival is always very, very good fun.
Great for adventure junkies.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a town. Then the Southampton Historical Museum, Saturday at 9 a.m. has an antique fair. So that's something not to miss, too. And then the Coalition for Women's Cancers. They have a chock-full calendar here. I'll just read some of their highlights. Saturday, September 23rd, and excuse me, Julie says this is the best. It's a birdhouse auction.
Yeah, the birdhouse auction's great.
Yeah, at Union Cantina at 40 Bowdoin Square, Southampton, and you can put them all around your house.
And support a great cause.
It is a great cause. And then
Don't feed your cat.
Keep them interested. Anyway. And then Monday, October 2nd, there's a breast cancer tree lighting at 6:30, Chamber of Commerce on Main Street in Southampton. And, in conjunction with that, Rich, myself, Murph, and Steve, all dressed up in pink for a photograph.
Where's that picture?
This morning.
Do you have a picture?
Oh, no, you can't.
You got a
That's,
picture?
that,
I mean, because I'm wearing my shirt from it, but you actually had
Look at it.
a nice... We'll get to it. No.
Well, we're not up to
We
that.
didn't.
We aren't there.
We have another public comment. We're not there yet.
which was great. Rich had a great pink shirt on.
Still do.
I found this Miami Vice pink jacket that was ancient and hitting away.
If I'd known, I would have worn mine.
Yeah. Steve Funch and I looked sedate next to you and Paul.
Yeah, well, wait till
Paul
you
had
see. She's
quite a pink shirt on.
gonna bring in the picture, and everybody can see it.
Right here.
Here we go. Charlie, can you get on that? You need a little tape to hold it down, Julie?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they were.
Zoom in on that, Charlie.
Yeah. Steve and I look like we're wearing white compared to these guys.
Yeah.
But they were wearing pale pink.
Well, we had some pink on, so.
On the steps of Village Hall this morning.
It is a nice jacket.
To Miami Vice. I
I like it.
Yeah.
thought you were going to wear it tonight. That was-
No.
They asked him to.
But it just indicates that we're in total support of the coalition, and even men wear pink. Real positive. And Ellen?
Actually, can I just add one more thing? Hold on a second. Wait. Just before we get to public comment. I did want to add one thing, which jogged, from what I just did last week. And also thank you for pointing out the rescue thing with the first responders. That reminds me of where we're in the upcoming hurricane season. We do have an incredible and talented paid and volunteer first responders. And we've been through our share of storms already. And what I want people to realize is, and it's been written, that the storms down south indicate how quickly things can change and unexpectedly. And people should be prepared and start thinking now if they should find themselves in that scenario. I was actually down in Florida last week with my wife, and our flight was canceled, and from Orlando we drove back, 26 hours straight drive. The impressive part about it was how controlled everybody was. I was on 95, and it was moving but packed. But it was very surreal witnessing all the rest areas all full, and all the hotel parking lots full, because every state down there was evacuating at the time, all the way up to Georgia. So, but the reason I mention that in conjunction with what Mayor Irving just said is when there are evacuations, we have areas that are, areas that have to be evacuated. And there are people that stayed behind in Key West and other areas that regretted staying there. And I want that to be a reminder, people, if, God forbid, in the upcoming season or any time we get hit with it,
us. If there's something we should not do, we should avoid.
Submitted to the Architectural Review Board in conjunction of that hearing in that context. And I'm sure the ARB will consider and weigh the evidence and the allegations for and against, including that allegation. I think ultimately it's not substantive, has nothing to do with the application, and they'll weigh and balance the comments that they received and come to whatever determination. But as to allegations of ethical allegations, there is a remedy for people who have complaints, and that is with our ethics board. And to my knowledge, Mr. Bennett didn't avail himself to that process.
Okay, but if there's anything we shouldn't be doing, picking our nose or whatever.
I think that you
let us
certainly, the ethics is a personal issue, as you know. It's your obligation individually. It's not up to the village attorney or the board to tell you what you should do or not do. You must avail yourself to the requirements of the code and what are conflicts of interest or even appearances of impropriety. And that's a lot of what is being alleged by all parties and things. And there are certainly things that we need to review as a village as to what your policy or how you may want to change the code as to those kind of actions. And that's a lot what has been happening with Kim and looking at other municipalities, how they deal with these issues. But currently, our code is not much different than many codes in the state of New York. To the village's credit, I say that there hasn't been a lot of allegations. Otherwise, our ethics board would be up and active. So I'm not saying that's good or bad, but certainly there's been issues, and I think this board is taking the steps to get the ethics board involved. But there is a procedure and a remedy, and we need to review that, and I'll be happy to review what that is so each of the board members can avail themselves to issues as you may see them. But more importantly, as you're being confronted with those issues, what's your obligation to do? Certainly, I've advised the board that, and this board has taken that lead prior to my giving you advice, but you're certainly the legislative board. You're to set policy and legislate. You're not here to interfere with the independent boards that you've appointed to apply the administrative and implementation of the existing codes. You certainly can go back and change the codes based on whatever, and that was why my concern when Mr. Bragman came in is you're not here to tell the ARB how to act or not act on a particular application, or the zoning board or the planning board or any other board, but you certainly can take into account what happens at these boards and how you may want to change the code or otherwise later on. But certainly you got to be careful how or what you comment on pending applications that are before the board, and I think the best practice is not to get involved, because there could be allegations from people for or against the applicant or people that may be opposed to the application that you are unreasonably interfering with the administrative process. And we have to be very careful of that.
It's very true. Second public comment.
Okay, so you have 3 minutes, everyone.
Jeff had longer. I thought I'd find a lot of moral outrage here about the illegal procedures at the ZBA and ARB that I pointed out to you. Instead, I got sort of a send the lady the bedbug letter reaction. So let me give you a couple of examples from the last 3 weeks, which may make the whole thing clearer to you. I was at a ZBA meeting about 2-3 weeks ago about an application about the Lynch place at 30 Roscoe Drive in my subdivision, and found that they were also considering an application for 10 Ann's Lane, which is around the corner, but also part of my subdivision. I pointed out to Mr. Guidera, I think that's the name, that I had
He pronounces it Guidera.
I guess I pronounced it the Italian way. All right. Anyway, and Rick DePietris interfered and said, no authority. I had quoted a couple of well-known cases, but anyway. And Guidera, whatever, said, well, you're here, aren't you? I said, I'm here about 30 South Roscoe Drive. I'm not here about 10 Anns Lane. I have every right to be informed. Just a week later, I was at the ARB, and lo and behold, I was just actually to see what was happening lately. And lo and behold, there is an application by 10 Johnny Lane, I think Goldsmith or something. I had not been alerted to that. By the way, I'm talking about over 40 property owners who have been ignored in such individual applications. Understand that. I'm only telling you this personal because of the lack of interest in what I was telling you about. This is illegal.
But I have a question. My question is, isn't there a certain footage? In other words, if you're within so many feet, you're notified, and if you're not, you're not?
No, that's the village code. It does not apply in New York State to subdivisions and property owners in subdivisions, because those property owners have a right to enforce common plan and scheme, their deeds against any other owner in that subdivision. We have a 67-lot subdivision which has been exploded to include 2 additional ones without notification, without procedures. So no, the village notice does not apply ipso facto to our subdivision. It has been so applied. To do something about this. That's what I'm trying to get done. Thank you. On the dot.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you. Any other comments? Charlie?
Charlie?
Got 3 minutes, Charlie.
Props.
I guess this is a little different from what I normally do, but in the aftermath of 9/11, a lot of people flew flags, and I'd like to present to the village one of them.
Oh, Charlie, it'd be a great honor.
This evidently fell off a vehicle in the city of New York on 9/12.
Thank you.
Charlie, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I know that means a lot to you. Thank you. Any other comments, or can I make a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Executive session for the purpose of discussing legal matters. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.